What is going on, guys? It's Dashdrop here, and in this series I'm going to be creating chess in C++ using the SDL2 library. So I've already gotten some basics set up here, but I have not created anything. So right now I'm trying to create the actual board for the game. So obviously I'm gonna have to make it checkered, like a chessboard usually is. If index modulo 2, I mean divisible by 2 obviously. So if that is 0, I know we are working with what piece? So the first one should be beige, the second one should be brown, or whichever colors I choose. Okay, so this might be a bit harder than I thought it would be. And that's just because I'm fucking stupid, but that's okay. So what I actually think I'm gonna do is make a C-style array like this, but I am gonna have a two-dimensional array basically. Okay, so instead what I'll do is I'll actually make this like that, and I'll remove the pointers because we don't need that. And what I'm first going to do is basically, I guess I can make a variable too, so let's make a constant expression size t, and we are gonna have, let's just make it the board size, put that to 64, and it doesn't like constant expression, maybe I have to make it static, yes I do. Okay, so now I can put board size on these guys, set the height because that comes first, and checking that height is less than board size. And actually I just realized this should be 8 because it's 8 by 8 and not 64 by 64. That would be a fucking huge chessboard. So we are gonna increment height, and in this we wanna do the same thing but for the width. So we got our 2D array set up. And now I would like to check if the height is divisible by 2. I guess what I could do is check here. This is gonna be nested like hell, but I'm probably gonna fix it later, so that's fine. So if height is divisible by 2, so that means we're checking 0, 2, 4, and 6 because we're working with a zero-based index. It's divisible by 2. So that means that we're working with the first. Yeah, you get the picture. I don't have to explain all this. Then I want to set the board height and width to 1. And else the board, we don't like that, thank you. Else the board height and width. I think it's height and then width. Maybe it doesn't matter, but that's what I'll do. And then I will put an else statement here. So this means that we're working with the odd rows. In that case, we basically want to do the exact same thing like that. This should be 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then we just want to flip these around. So I think that should do it. Now what we could also do is put these for loops here. And we want to just print, not count. So we have to include IO stream for printing, and we want to print out board height width, and then make a space between each one, and then for each row we want to just print out a new line. So we are calling play, so let's actually see how that looks. Okay, there we go. Look at that, we got a checkered board. That was actually fairly simple to set up. So in the end I'm gonna translate this to actual like tiles, and then I'm gonna make the chess pieces in Photoshop. It's gonna look very nice, but that works. And what I could do to prevent some nestling, actually a lot of nestling is in this if statement. I'm just gonna do continue, which obliterates the need for the second else. And then I'm just gonna replace this with a ternary operator. So I'm gonna set board height width is equal to width is divisible by 2. Then we're gonna put a 1 otherwise a 0. And this might be a little hard to read, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit clearer. So we're checking if it's divisible by 2, then we're gonna put a 1 there, otherwise a 0. And then we continue. So this goes away, and then I'm gonna do the exact same thing down here, but I have to flip these around. Just to not make this confusing, I'm actually gonna put an else statement there, even though the continue works basically the exact same way. I feel this is a little bit clearer to read. So if we now run this, we should get the exact same result. Yes, sir. Yes, we do. So we have the print. We can actually make a function for that. This can be constant because we're just printing. And obviously we're gonna want to call this function too, so we actually can see the board. So very nice. We have a numerical board right now. That's okay. And now it's time to put the chess pieces in place. So I'm gonna make a similar array. I don't think I have to make an array for this. What I could do instead, obviously I'm gonna want to make a struct for the different chess pieces so I can tell them apart. And I would like to have something like texture, maybe image. I'll just name it image for now. I'm gonna make a vector, and I will include the vector library. Vector of, I'm not sure yet, so I'm just gonna put it like there, and then I'm gonna name that moves, because I want to track every single move that that chess piece can make. I think that's good for now. I think I can make a static chess piece, like pawn, and I can just put down pawn.png. So const char image, I'll just set image to image. So there we go. Let's just make all the pieces. We've got the pieces defined, that's perfect. What I'm gonna do now, I actually do have to make an array because I have to place the actual the pieces like that. And then in the same for loop, I want to check if the height is equal to 0, so the first row, or if the height is equal to, let's just do board size -1. So if it's on the bottom or the top. This is probably gonna be ugly, but that's okay. So I'm gonna switch the width, and I'm gonna set case 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There we go. So then we want to have pieces, height and width is gonna be, and I don't want this to be an integer, I want this to be a chess piece array actually. It's obviously not gonna be a pawn, it's gonna be a knight. Sorry, I'm really bad at chess names. No, it's a rook. My bad, guys, my bad. We're just gonna do the same for all these pieces. I'm gonna skip the... Hold on, what the hell am I doing here? No, I'm not gonna skip anything actually. Let's just add a default case. So the second one is obviously gonna be the knight. Yes. And just to make this less code, I'm gonna put the cases next to each other. So the knight goes next to 1, like that. There we go. So now we have placed those, and now we're gonna wanna check once again if the height is 1 or the height is board size -2. There we go. I think that's all we have to do actually. So we're placing top and bottom pieces, and then we are placing the pawns. Maybe that works, maybe that doesn't work. There is no real way to tell. What I could actually do is make copies of these. And now in the print we can try printing the pieces instead, and we can see if it looks okay. Goddamn. It seems to be working fine actually. Start on a rook, then a knight, then a bishop, then the king and the queen, and so forth. So that looks good, and these are just null values. That's fine. Okay, great. So we know that that's working. So for now, we have the actual things set up. I'll change this back to chess piece, and I will actually declare this above just for consistency. Okay, so the basic layout is set up, and now I think it's time to quickly create some beautiful tiles and some pieces, and then we can try to print and see if it looks good. Okay, there we go. What do you think? If you guys ever need a graphics designer, just let me know, I will hook you up. So I did make an assets folder. Whoa, what the fuck? What do you mean? I think it's just Visual Studio being a little dickhead to me. I'm just gonna comment that out for now. Pieces is uninitialized. That's alright. That's alright. Maybe I can just do this and we're all happy. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're all happy. So we got some beautiful design. Now we just need to actually render everything out. So to facilitate this, I'm going to use the render window I created for my other game. So I'm just gonna add a new class called render window, and then I am just going to basically do all that, but I'm gonna strip some things away. I think everything else is fine except we don't need those two. I'm just gonna strip all that, and maybe it's a good idea to also make a constants file. So I'm just gonna make a new item called constants. We're gonna make static const expression window width. Let's just make this 400 for now. Obviously we need to make these ints as well, and this is gonna be the height. So now when we include the constants, this should work fine. Wonderful, wonderful. So we've got the render class up and running. That's great. And I don't think I'm missing something. Yes, I'm missing the actual render function. That's because I removed that. We're gonna pass in the chess piece. Now we're actually gonna have to... Let's... see, what I'll actually do is create a separate file for the chess pieces. I'm gonna start by adding an H file. I don't think I'm gonna need a CPP file, so I'm just gonna strip those away, because I don't want to include the actual game file in the render, because I'm gonna include the render in the game file, and that's gonna mess some things up. So let's do it like this. So we're gonna include the chess piece, which is gonna fix that, and this looks good as is. I include the chess piece here, and then in the render I'm just gonna replace some names. And then the get texture, we're gonna need that function. We're not gonna need a rotation angle in the chess piece. So what I'm actually gonna do is just create an SDL texture right here. Name it texture. Should have to include the SDL library here too. Yeah, wonderful. We are making progress. So we're gonna have a rectangle too. There we go. And coordinates. Yeah, I guess we're gonna need that. Let's actually just remove this vector for now. X and Y. Textures uninitialized. I don't think it is, actually. I don't know what you yapping about. Of course, the get texture. That's just gonna be texture. Okay, now we need to create the actual entities, the chess pieces. So what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna set... Oh, that's right, because these are constants. Okay, I think I have a better idea. We're gonna scrap all of these, and we are gonna create them in here instead. I could create a chess piece here, like that. And then I can just set piece.image like that, because the only unique thing here is the actual image. So this is gonna be the knight, and then we can remove all of that. And then at the end of this, we can just do piece.x is equal to width times 64, and then piece.y is height times 64. And then we can do pieces, height, width is piece. There we go. So we just simplify this by a lot. We can also do if piece.image is null, we'll just print fail to load image for chess piece. Maybe just break out of the entire if statement. So to place the pawns, we can simply, I guess I just make a new chess piece here, or we can be all resourceful and shit and place the chess piece up here. And then we can do piece.image is assets / pawn. And then we can do piece.x is equal to, since they're all being handled the exact same way, let's just skip that error part until later. So that looks okay for now. We are setting the images and then we're storing the piece. Okay, so now that that's set up, we're gonna want to create the board. Actually, let's be real smart here. Let's do 64 by 8 is 512, so that's where we're gonna make the window. Before I move any further, I'm actually gonna include the render window, because we're gonna wanna load the actual texture. So what we can do is set the texture, we can call render window load texture, just like that. And let's make sure I don't have any paths. I do. So that's actually great. So now we can remove all of this and we can actually just load in the texture straight away. And just so you know, this is the first time I'm setting all of this up, so I have no clue if this is actually gonna work right away, but we're gonna find out. And we don't need these guys anymore because we're not creating any variables inside of the cases. That looks like it should be working. You never know. And then I'm also gonna add the texture here. So render window, load texture, and then we're gonna wanna load the pawn. No, hold on. This is not the pawn, this is the tile. This is where I want to add the ternary operator. I'm gonna make a const char texture, tile texture. If the width is divisible by 2, we're gonna wanna load in tile 1, otherwise tile 2.png. And then we can just load in the actual tile texture. I obviously have to change this to chess piece 2. I might split this into a separate struct later just to keep it clearer. Because obviously the tile isn't a chess piece necessarily, but it works for now, so I'm just gonna keep it like that. And now I want to do the exact same thing here, but I'm gonna flip these guys around. So this is now 2 and this is now 1. And then same as before, just store the piece. What do we need to do now? We gotta get the actual game loop up and running. So I'm gonna create the update function. And in this, I'm gonna want to have a bool is running, which is gonna be set to true initially. So while the game is running, actually rename that to game is running. We would like to also have the actual window instance, of course. So we're gonna make a render window, and this is where I actually set the parameters for the window. So I'm just gonna have a title called Epic SDL2 Chess Game. Yes, sir. So while the game is running, we're gonna wanna clear the renderer each time, and I'm actually gonna handle the keys later. So I'm just gonna add a to-do, handle keys, and I believe I can actually just render stuff out here. Let me create the render folder. Not a fucking folder, it's a function. And we want to loop through just like before. So the height starts at 0, the height is less than the board size. There we go. And then we're gonna want the height and the width. Yeah, so there we go. We got the actual pieces. First we're gonna do window.render, and then we're just gonna pass that in because that's the entire piece. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing for the pieces. And the pieces are to appear above the actual board. So that should work. And then we also want to render everything out. Of course, I want to actually be able to display the things I'm rendering, of course. So we got the update. We got the render, the print board. We will no longer be using that, thank you. So let's just call update in play. And I wonder if I have everything set up now because I'm loading the images. Oh look, I actually missed one. Texture is render window. Low texture, and we can remove the path. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, this should render out. Let's just make sure everything builds. Yeah, we got some warnings here. Let me just take care of that. Where are my lines? What the hello? Okay, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Oh, it's right here. Because these are size T, of course. So let's actually change these to ints. And I'm gonna change this to int 2. Just so we don't have to make static casts everywhere. And the same thing there. Okay, everything succeeds. So I wonder if I run this now, if anything pops up. Okay, so we have something. Okay, so we are stuck in a loop, and I believe that's not a problem. I think I actually need the poll event and everything like that. So let's create an event like that. Make another while here. So while SDL poll event. We're gonna check if the event type is key down, and the event key sim is SDL key escape, so we can actually quit the game. I am just gonna do SDL destroy. Actually, let me just make a stop function. Stop. Here I'm gonna wanna and do the same thing for the pieces. So just destroy that. Maybe I can destroy the window too. Let's see what else we can destroy. Renderer. Window get renderer. Okay. It's not crashing now. I can quit it with escape. That's great. And obviously I want to set game is running to false and then break. And then we're gonna wanna return. Let's build the solution and let's try to run this. There we go. Now it's all quitting, but I'm not seeing any rendering happening. That's interesting. Oh, you know what? We're not actually setting the sizes. Of course. So the X and Y of the rectangle, and then the width and the height. Okay, that could have been it. Let's build this again. Let's do continue. Oh! Look at that! We have a motherfucking chessboard. Very nice. And the pieces seem to be where they should be. So hey, that's bloody great. So I think that's gonna conclude it for the first video of this series. We got the renderer up. We got the chessboard up. Basically, we got everything for the foundation to work. So that's great. And in the next video, I'm gonna be adding the function where you can click on the chess pieces and actually move them around. So that's gonna be very interesting. But I want to thank you so much for watching this video. And if you like the video, please go ahead and leave a like and subscription. And I will see you in part 2.